Hello, and a very warm welcome to the Journey Journals by Life of Gaia. My name is Gaia, and today we're going to be taking a challenging and difficult journey into the overcoming of childhood war trauma, in particular with love. And today I have a very special guest with me. Her name is Rickie Avitan, and she is a retired nurse of 30 years who then transitioned into becoming a psychic, a trance medium, a spiritual healer, and a clinical hypnotherapist. A very warm welcome to you, Rickie.
Same to you, Gaia. Thank you so much for having me here. It's wonderful. And hi, everybody. And thank you for tuning in.
Such a pleasure and an honor to have you here as always. Now, Rickie, I would like to, even before we start, thank and acknowledge you for having the courage and the bravery to have this discussion with me today, because I know how particularly challenging and difficult it can be. So thank you.
Very welcome. Yeah. And when we share stories, it may touch somebody out there that share a similar story and can begin a journey of healing, or can take something from this that will be beneficial. So sharing is caring.
Absolutely. Rickie, this story starts in Israel in 1967, and you were just a 3-year-old little girl. Could you share with us some of the vivid memories that you had basically being a 3-year-old in the middle of a war?
So this is going all the way back. I was born in April 12th, 1964, so you can do the math. And I was 3 years old, a very little kid, born to a big family of 10. So I was last of 10 kids. And my memories for many, many years that accompanied my life were about the siren, the sound of the sirens, the running into the bomb shelter in the middle of the night, in the middle of the day, in the middle of anything that you do. And we had to leave everything and run to the bomb shelter where everybody gathered. For many, many years, I remember the smell of the bomb shelter, it's underground. So every home and apartment building has to have a bomb shelter. That's just the state of Israel. And so I remember we, in our particular home, we didn't have a bomb shelter. So when a siren would go, and there would be a man, as far as I could remember, that would walk around the street with a speaker, with his megaphone, and will yell, "Go to the shelter, go to the shelter, everybody now, leave everything, go to the..." And we would run across the street to this apartment building that had the bomb shelter, and everybody would gather there. There was barely any space to sit. It was dark. It was closed. The doors are metals. There was one window metal, and it's cement, and the smell is very strong. And you could take whatever you've got. So we sat there for days. I remember I wanted some water, and this woman says, you can only have a little bit because we don't know how long we're going to be here. And so that all of this was so triggering for so long. So anytime I would smell something similar, it would trigger. Or hear an ambulance siren, or a police siren, or a fire siren, or a news about war, this whole scenario would be triggered. So it was very, very challenging. As we know, there is a lot of research and studies, the impact on kids, on up to 5 years old, 6 years old, that it becomes very much a fabric of our subconscious mind. And so that was a fabric of my subconscious mind to be in that state, and to very early in my life to experiencing that state of fear.
I was just going to say, it must have been very traumatic and terrifying from so many perspectives, and with all your senses involved in it. And I wanted to ask you, how did all of this shape your understanding of the world at the time? I mean, you were only 3 years old.
Yes, it's a very good question, because I operated from that state of mind, which meant lack of trust. You have to be careful. And so as a little girl and growing up in Israel, which was in a state of war, pretty much all of my growing up, Israel was very young in the infancy. The country was just building. And so the state of lack of trust, where do I go? Watch over your shoulder, watch for bomb. You couldn't pick up any bag. You don't touch anything that doesn't belong to you. You don't leave any bag unattended. Everything must be attended. You have to watch who's standing beside you. You can't go to this street. You have to be careful who you walk with. So the whole upbringing was about a state of fear. And the shape of how I grew up to have my mental state is be careful, don't trust, watch out. And so that's meant who I was allowing into my life. My guards were up pretty much all the time. Being in that state of constant fear that something might happen at any moment, even when we were in a state of peace with the world, with the surrounding countries, there was that place within the mental state of and the fabric of my mind from a little girl that nothing is safe, because at any point you can be killed. At any point, someone can take your life, because the Jewish people are not loved. The Jewish people there's someone waiting in the corner for you. And so that was real challenge for many, many, many years. For many years, it's affected my relationship with people. It affected my relationship with friends. It affected my relationship with myself. Pretty much on all level of my existence, it had an impact.
Rickie, yes, it sounds terrible, but you know, the story didn't even end there when you were 3 or 4 years old. It actually continued, because you mentioned to me that you were 10 years old in 1972 and there was more war. Could you speak into that?
Yes, the state of Israel has been in a state of war or political unsettled for as long as I remember. It still is to this day. We have more peace with countries, but from Six-Day War in 1967 and 1972, I believe, I would have been maybe 10 or 12 years old. And there is another war that broke down, and it was with the surrounding neighbors. And again, into the bomb shelter, into the siren, into that state of fear. And with that, soldiers who would go to the war, there would be some who've lost their lives. So from the neighbors, we would hear screaming, and we knew that son died, that husband died. And so in the middle of the night, we would be awakened with screaming, massive screaming from this home or that home. And we knew that tragedy had taken place. So no matter where we went, there was this notices of death that were hanging in electrical poles or homes, and funerals upon funerals upon funerals. And the state of this harmony that was constant. So it was going from one war to the next. But between that war to the next, there was terrorist attacks. There was bombing attacks. There was missiles attacks. And it still is. It still is. And you have to, in the house, you have to put all your windows with wet towels, just in case there is a gas attack. And so you can just imagine which way it's going to come. And so the state didn't really have time, the state of Israel, the government, to look after the individual needs. It was about the country, which understandably so, because if there is no country, there is no people. And so it was about the country, it was about the securement of the country. And therefore, the individuals, the children, the people who experience the effect and impact of war, mental state, emotional state, were not attended to. And so we had to fetch for ourselves. And so as a growing up woman, I have learned that okay, this is something I need to pay attention to. This fear I need to look at. This anxiety, it's not normal. Because when you're in that state, you feel everybody in that country is in a state of anxiety. Everybody in that country is in a state of fear. So I couldn't say what is right, what is not, because everything seems to be normal. Everybody's in the same place, more or less, with a variety of intensity. So I thought that this is normal to how people should be living their life. Now that it's not normal, that a normal state of being is love and peace, not disharmony.
Yes, it sounds like it was relentless and it was coming at you from all sides 24/7. And it's almost as if there's no downtime or time to relax or be at peace or even process what's going on. And I can relate to it in a very small degree, because having been born and raised in South Africa, which is a country that I love dearly, but unfortunately has its own set of problems, political unrest, and pretty high violence. You also tend to live in a state of constant high alert. And I find that now, even living overseas for 30 odd years now, that I still that there's a lot of it that still remains, and a lot of it's very unconscious or subconscious. And so I wanted to ask you, you know, what was it like being in this constant state of high alert for you as a child and during your childhood? And how did it affect your emotional well-being and your mental health as you started to grow older and become an adult?
Yes. As a child, you become very hyper vigilant, and part of the being is to stay safe, to survive. You develop, it's pretty much was the mental state all around, developed a certain strength that supported the survival. Anger, resentment, uh, this is mine. How can I take this? How can I get this? How can I keep this? It really, as you said, it was so unconscious. It was the fabric of who I was. Working from and operating from a place of constant action without thinking, constant fear without thinking. Even when the place was okay, you're going to a movie, you have to watch your back. Your bags are being checked. Your body has to be scanned. You can't just go into a movie theater like normal. You've got security guard who are scanning your body, scanning your bag. So everything was normal in our life, but it wasn't. And at about the age of 16, my sister invited me to go with her to a meditation place. And I remember sitting there, I was 15 or 16, somewhere around there. And I realized there is a different state, which I couldn't recognize what it was, but something was different. And I thought, what is that? Today I know it was calm and a place that my being was yearning, but couldn't find it. And the moment I left that space, again, you're going into this harshness of the external world. So hypervigilant was a state of mind. The whole nervous system, the body was tight, the shoulder and neck, constant pain, massive pressure and headaches, constant, very little breaks from it, lower back pain, all of those things that are affecting the nervous system, which at the time I did not know it's not normal. Because when you talk to people, oh, my back is really hurt, my shoulder is so tight, and my heart, it's all of these things. That was very much many of us in my age at that time experienced and still do, unfortunately.
Rickie, earlier you mentioned that that there was a pretty significant impact of the war trauma that you experienced on your personal relationships and, just on your overall sense of security. Could you speak a little bit more into that, particularly the relationships and the impact on those?
Yes, definitely. Um, as um, as a child, a growing up child, and part of my adult life, I would only bring people to that close, but not any closer. There was a state of fear and a lack of trust and a state of death because there was so much death, funerals upon funerals upon funerals, that we had to walk behind the coffins. And so I didn't bring people close to me. So the intimate relationship, the opening up, the ability to communicate effectively, to being able to express my feelings, my emotions, was not there. When in that state of being at the tree wall in a bomb shelter, it's climbing down inwardly and moving into this silence, but not silence of calm, but silence of fear. We had to be quiet in the house. We literally had to be quiet when the fighter jets were flying. We didn't know, are we going to be attacked? Are there any enemies around? We had to be silent. I remember our parents and brothers and sisters said, be quiet. Don't say anything. Be quiet. So we learned to be quiet, not to say anything, not to speak, not to have a voice, not to utter any word just in case someone is outside. You see, everything had to be in dark. The windows had to be covered. Everything was in dark, and we could sit there for days, not hours, but days. And you come out and you got to go back there for days. It had a huge impact on. I actually buried myself in work, and also later on as I grew up, buried myself in education and learning and books. It was a state of escape. At the time, I had no realization that that's what I was doing.
Right, and as would addictions and alcoholism and other types of escapes related to it. And I feel like even the not fully connecting to people and not fully opening up to people and creating close relationships, in and of itself is a protection mechanism because one is the fear of not knowing who's going to be alive at the end of the day. So not to attach to them too deeply because of the loss that might be associated with it. I mean, it gets pretty complex. And so I wanted to ask you with, when it started to coming to addressing your healing around the all of this war trauma, what were some of the challenges that you faced in trying to, address the healing, especially in a society where I imagine at the time, mental health awareness might have been very limited or maybe even non-existent because there were other priorities.
Is correct. I went into nursing school at the age of 18 after my high school, and I went into a university hospital and they became a registered nurse and did part of my degree. And then I went to the military for 2 years. And so there was this continuation of being in that place of achievement. One of the things that have happened, I became a very high achiever, a perfectionist. And so in the military, I had to do a courses, became a lieutenant, and then finished that after 2 years, and then got married and I left the country with my husband at the time and immigrated to Canada. In Canada, I was behaving the way I behaved in Israel. And I began to realize people here behaving differently. They are kind of going on the bikes, they're cycling, they're running in the street, they're not watching their backs, they're having festivals outside, jazz festival, folk festival, and people are laughing and smiling and calm. I thought, what is that? And so there is a part of me that wanting to find out, how is it? So I start riding a bike, going on a hikes, doing those little things. And I come across a couple who spoke about meditation here in Vancouver. And I thought, I want to go and experience that. And I joined the IMIS. It was my first 3 day silent meditation, loving kindness meditation. And it was amazing. There, I sat in silence. There, I learned to sit with myself. There, I learned to feel again the presence of spirit. There, I learned to connect with Rickie, that's been lost since the age of 3. There, all the memories start to come out, and I began to make friends with them. And the process of healing began, not in Israel, but outside of Israel. And so I was still attached to Israel as I was watching the news. And when there would be any alert or war or bombing in Israel, I would watch the news and I feel my whole state of being changing again into being in the same place. So I stopped watching the news. I reduced watching the news about what was happening there. And slowly I began to dissociate myself from those events in that country, which have really helped me to begin the journey of self-healing.
Rickie, there was also a religious component that we spoke of before the interview, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about that, and about your experience with religion, and the imposing and the influence of religion on your perspective on spirituality, on personal freedoms. Could you speak a little bit into that?
Yes, of course. It is a very difficult topic, extremely difficult topic. And some who might listen to what I have to say may not like what I have to say. But when it comes to Israel state and the time of my upbringing, the religion was very much in control, meaning we couldn't take buses from Friday sunset to Saturday evening, which they call the Sabbath. We couldn't do a lot of things as a free woman. We couldn't do a lot of things. We had to dress up in a certain way. We couldn't dress up more elaborated and be in a certain places. If I, as a woman, would walk into a certain area that is very religious and I didn't dress up in a certain way, I would not be allowed. The religion had a huge impact on us as individuals of freedom of being. Things that I didn't feel connected to, activities that I didn't feel part of. And it didn't bring me closer. It actually created more division and more isolation for me. I couldn't find God in the synagogue. And my relationship with God was not a friendly relationship. I was extremely angry with God. How could you do that? How could you allow war? How could you allow the Holocaust? How could you allow this person to die and that person to die? There was so many deaths. So it didn't compute in my brain. How could a loving God and a religion have so much pain and challenges? How could a religion and God accept only a certain caste or a certain people or certain ideas or ideology? It just didn't make sense in my mind, and it created further and further away. It really pushed me away from the state. I love my country, Israel. I love my country. I love the people. But the ideology that was existing at the time didn't fit with me. Something was not right for me. There was injustices in my mind, which it didn't compute. So it isolated me further. And I didn't want to go to synagogues. I didn't want to be part of religion tradition, part of ceremonies, and so on.
Thank you so much for sharing that so openly. I do appreciate it. It sounds like it was the move from Israel to Canada that then started sort of exposing you to a different level of personal freedoms. And it sounds like that is where you started to discover things like meditation. And I'm curious to know what led you to meditation, aside from this visit with your friend, to exploring meditation as a means of finding peace and healing, and how did it contribute to your journey of recovery from all of this war trauma?
Yes, so I began the journey of meditation back in Israel when my sister introduced me to it, and I felt, wow, there's something there. And then in Canada, once I went with my friend to the IMIS. I used to go there every 6 weeks religiously. They used to bring teachers from outside, from North America and others country, as well as from Canada, to give us the 3 days retreats. From there, I began to join a 10-day silent retreats. And that was like a surgery of the mind. You sat for 10 days in silence and working on sensation. And those sensations begin to arise, the fear, the trauma, the stories begin to surface and begin to lift and move, as there was a technique to do to allow it to lift and move, lift and move. I remember I went to my very first 10-day retreat, silent retreat. It was in Whidbey Island. And as I am there, something didn't feel right for me. And I didn't know what it was. That was my very first introduction to the 10-day silent retreat. And the windows were covered and it was dark, and that smell, and it was triggers. And as I am there, the fighter jets start to fly above me. And I remember crossing a field at nighttime, and the fighter jets flew above me, and I dunked down. And my heart was racing. I stood up and I said, Rickie, what's going on in here? You're not in the war. Then I realized, you've got a problem. You see, I have a problem. And then I begin to understand Rickie needs to heal. It wasn't just finding calm and peace. Well, we need to heal. I needed to heal those parts. That was very difficult. And what was fascinating for me in my very first 10 days was my healing with the religion. That's what was coming up for me. And the country, and all those states of mind that I was holding as related to my country, that began to lift and lift and lift. And so the journey of meditation had shaped. I've been doing meditation for many, many years. I've moved from one tradition to the next as I was moving and changing, and my needs as a person was moving and changing. But the healing journey was magnificent. Mountains and valleys, very high and very lows. And I'm grateful for the journey, absolutely grateful for the journey.
Rickie, was the 10-day silent meditation that you were referring to, was that Vipassana?
That is correct. That Goenka Vipassana, which I've done over 10 years. I've done in different places. We have a place here, Merit. I've done it in Israel, Whidbey Island, and different places. And so it was very, very powerful, very powerful. Mm-hmm.
I absolutely agree with you. I did a 10-day one in Jessup, Georgia, and it was one of the most challenging 10 days of my life, but probably the most profound and insightful of my life too. Absolutely agree with you. It's a great practice. Rickie, aside from Vipassana, were there any other meditations or techniques that you found helpful in your recovery?
Yes. The healing journey. I believe it's ongoing. I don't believe we never arrive, but we are releasing and changing and transforming because there is such a depth to us. And so we're not just one layer or two layers. There's a depth to us, and it's a magnificent depth to us. So to get to that jewel within, it's a journey. It's a journey. I don't believe that we never arrive to the end point, but I do believe that we unfold and unfold. So I began, as I said, with the IMIS, and then I moved into the Vipassana, and then I moved into body meditation, which was more esoteric and connecting more to the higher realms. And it was also moving and purifying the body and the mind. But the recent years, I began to do the sitting in the power, which is sitting with spirit. And so I can't tell you that is one better than the other, but it is a journey. And each part of it was important to my evolution, to my evolvement of the mind and the understanding and coming to be friend with my soul. So the sitting in the power is sitting in the presence of my spirit and the presence of my spirit team. And at this time, this is my practice. I sit at the presence of my spirit and the presence of my team, my spirit friends, my beloved spirit friends, I call them. And it is beautiful, a beautiful unfoldment. They are not going to tell me what to do or how to run my life because it's my journey here on earth. But they're there to hold my hand. They are there to walk together. They are there to let us know we are not alone. They are there to say, hey, how about this? How about this? You see? So I believe that we come to places, and when we open and surrender to the sound of the inner being, that we're going to be led to the right meditation, technique, process, journey. And when we listen and we ask, the vibration of the universe will bring you back what we're asking for. So my yearning was, let me see what I cannot see. Let me see the crevices within me that I'm unable to see, that I'm blind to. So the first journey was the gross sensation, as you know, from Vipassana, the surface one, which was the country, the religion, the war, all those mental states. But now it's a deeper journey. Now it's a journey of the soul. Now it's a journey of ascension of the mind. It moves beyond the healing of this life, the healing of, let's say, the healing of the resentment and the anger and the relationship. All of that it's good. I made peace with many, many parts of this that I am aware. But now it's the journey of the soul, and the journey of the soul, it's magnificent. And that's where I said, overcoming it with love.
Beautifully said. And it sounds like a continuously unfolding journey of discovery that keeps deepening as you go along. And I know that this journey of discovery and this deepening has led you to, the work that you do today, which is transmediumship. And I wanted to ask you, how has you've developed a very deep relationship with God and with the spirit world through your work. And I wanted to know how those two have contributed to your personal healing journey. And then most importantly, how do you feel that it could help other people that are maybe experiencing similar traumas?
Yes. When I look at the migration of children from Ukraine, and we all know what's happening here. When I saw the children of Syria and all of the migrants, it brings me back to the memories, but without my memory. But how can we help these people? What can we do as global society? Knowing my personal journey of transformation and how angry I was with God for letting this all happen, I come to the realization that trauma is not God-made, but it's man-made. It's not God-made, but it's man-made. And it's a choice. So I choose love. And as I begin, back in the days, the unfoldment of my own mental states and the taking the responsibility of the healing and for the healing, my relationship with self and my relationship with God have changed tremendously. I no longer see God as that man sit on the throne, but I know God as an experience that I experience on a daily, regularly with every breath. And I know that source that we are all connected to have the same possibilities and abilities to come to that place of love. And it is a choice that we choose love rather than war, where we choose peace rather than fighting. And I don't say that a lot of things that have shaped our world didn't have to take place, but did they have to take place the way they did? And how can we change the future? What have changed my belief system is my walking with God. Begin to hearing and knowing the intimate relationship that I have with God. And begin to know and to have the intimate relationship with the angels, with his messengers, and with my spirit friends. And that is the vibration. That is the frequency. And that is the sitting in the power. That with the trance mediumship and with the whole mediumship part have taught me how to. And I have joined the Spiritualist National Union, I believe in 2014, where I began to deepen my understanding of this relationship with God. That there is no dogma. There is no God who loves me more than you or love me less than you. But we are all his equal children. And we all have the birthright of living and breathing fresh air, clean water, and food to our table. So this relationship, through the unfoldment of the pain and suffering that I have gone through, it moved me from the beyond of mine and me and Rickie and my pain. But let me see what I can do here. In my clinical hypnotherapy, clients that come in, I can understand some of the stories because I've been there. So, and knowing that I overcome it, that there is a belief and a knowing that I know that they can overcome it. And that belief and knowing, I have clients who says, Rickie, you believed in me. Yes, of course I have. Why not? Why not? And so I know you can transform your life. And I know that the medicine is in you, but let's see how we can get there. So the meditation, by the grace of God, I got there, but it's for the greater ways, not just to calm my mind and learn the breathing. but to know how to reach the soul within, to know how to renew my relationship with self, my relationship with source, and my relationship with others. And that is the journey. It's not the journey of self, because when we heal self, we heal the energetic fabric of our connection, of our connectivity to one another. Because if one is not healed, if one is suffering, I have the impact. So it's not just sitting in my home and feeling great and feeling blessed and being in bliss. No. It is how can we create bliss and joy and love in this entire planet and beyond. And that is by raising our vibration, which is a choice. You choose to raise your vibration. You choose to be in love. You choose to spread love. So we pay attention to what we talk, how we talk, what we think, how we think. As we know today that our thoughts create our reality. So what reality do I want to create? What emotion do I want to create? Because the thought creates an emotion, and that emotion brings an action. So what is my input to my computer? And what is the output that I'm going to put out once I click into the keyboard?
Yeah, that's a very important consideration and something for all of us to take on. Rickie, I wanted to just circle back a second. You mentioned two very specific and current, events and situations going on right now at the moment with, the children of the Ukraine and of Syria. And, I wanted to ask you now, standing from looking at it from the other side, right now, you're an adult, you've been through a healing journey and all of that. But right today, as we speak, even as we are recording this interview right now, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of 3-year-old little girls and boys experiencing what you experience right this very second, and little 10-year-old girls and 10-year-old boys. If you could say something to one of them from this other side, what would it be?
This is a very difficult, I would say, love.
Mm.
And allow hate to overcome. Do not allow revenge to take place. Don't close down because someone chose to bring war. But remember that you are more than the journey of walking on the rubbles, that you are more than the journey of that missile. To know that your soul is ageless and it's timeless. I know as a 3 years old, I didn't know that. And I know that you don't know that. I know that you walk and walk miles and you're hungry and thirsty and it's painful. But to remain open, to not close down because of someone else's afflicted pain and suffering, but to know that your soul is always connected to the greater spirit, and that your soul is a spirit, is a greater, has a greater journey and a greater purpose than walking on the rebels. And one day when you grow up to be an older woman or a man, and you remember the times when you walk on the pebbles, when you had no home, and when you're hungry, you remember those so you can support others. And so others don't experience hunger, fear, anxieties, and darkness. So you remember this moment of pain to lighten up somebody else's life. And that would be my message. Not to stay in the dark for the rest of your life, but to let that dark bring light. And I know it will. I know it will.
Thank you so much for that, Rickie. That was beautiful. Do you have an overarching message for the world around healing in particular?
I do. And can you love, truly love, like the Dalai Lama says, compassion, this unconditional love. Can you be and live and walk as if you are God, loving all, being with all, giving unconditionally, even when you are in pain, even when you cannot see the next breath, but to know that you are loved and you cultivate love and that you are not alone. As my spirit friends have said, reach out with your invisible hand and know that God's invisible hand touches you. And so you hold hands together. Don't stay in a state of suffering, but let the suffering and the pain and the fear be replaced with love. And that is a choice. When you look at Mandela, that was in prison for so long, he believed. He believed. So let us know that that day of light is coming, is here. So together we can be awakened. Awakened to what? Awaken to your spirit. Awaken to the knowledge that you are not alone. Awaken to the knowledge that peace should prevail and will prevail. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Rickie. Rickie, have there been any books, videos, documentaries, courses, anything that has been of help to you on your healing journey that you might be able to recommend to someone going through the same?
I don't have anything at this moment, but I do like to listen to audios, and it's interesting. I click at nighttime and an audio would come and I would listen to it, and I'd listen to the Dalai Lama because it's messages of peace. I'd listen to I forgot the name of this guru. It just doesn't come to mind now. Who brings messages of peace and love? So that's what I would encourage people. When there is anything that is not harmony, just don't be there. When there is anything that doesn't chive with you, don't take it in. Discard it. Because you are the master of your own life. And so knowing that you can allow or not allow things to come to you when you have control within them. War, you have no control. I didn't have a control over war when I was 3 years old, but I do have the ability to say who I want to be around, what conversation I want to have, and what do I want to listen to. So there are beautiful audios or books that are about love and about peace. So find the one that fits you, that sits with you.
Thank you. And I feel like everything that you've said in this video and in this audio is all about love and is a message of love and peace in and of itself, as are you a message of love and peace. And, I wanted to take a moment, as always, to thank you for your time and for sharing your story and yourself so openly and so vulnerably. I know it's a difficult and challenging story for you to recount. So there's huge appreciation from my side for you for having done that. And I also want to thank you for your bravery and your resilience. I cannot even begin to imagine what it must have been to have been 3 years old and have experienced what you experienced. And the journey of where you are today is remarkable. And it's such a testimony of what's possible to people who are experiencing and going through the same thing. And so I would like to extend that invisible hand that you mentioned from your spirit friends, and I'd like to extend my invisible hand out to you across the many miles and through this medium and to give you the biggest hug ever and send you a lot of love. Thank you, Rickie.
Thank you very much, Gaia. It's I received it, and it's coming back at you. My invisible hands back to you. I wanted to say one last thing. We can be a heroes in our own life and in the life of others, and it's a choice. You know, we I don't know that there is any human being who haven't experienced some level of challenge in their life, different level. And I don't know that we can say one is less and one is more because we all impact that differently. Take that story and change the chapter and recreate the story and make it yours. And be a hero in your story, not just a character there, but a hero. And be a hero in someone else's life, someone that they can look back and they can say, that person have really helped me so much. So I thank you, Gaia, for creating the space for us, the time, and this channel. And I hope that some things from today that people can take to continue or start the journey that they need to unfold their own soul. Gratitude.
To you too. And it's been my absolute pleasure, really. And it's my way, like yours, of being of service. And so the same with me. I hope that this reaches the right people and helps them. And I encourage, if you are listening in the audience and you'd like to get in touch with Rickie or you have questions for her, please put them in the comments below. And, if you feel that Rickie's story could resonate or help someone else, it's so filled with powerful messages and insights. Please do share it, send it to them, comment, write to Rickie, and we will put all the links below that Rickie mentioned and how to get hold of her and her website and her courses and all of that. And we thank you again for listening and for being with us. Thank you again, Rickie.
Thank you very much. Thank you. God bless.